needs to be reassessed as part of any modification.
Well, I would be interested in seeing those studies. I would appreciate that. Because the data I've seen shows something completely contrary, where if there's an incident, in the rare occurrence, there's an incident with the blades, the tendency is that it falls straight down. It's not that large pieces fly through the atmosphere and land on houses. So, but I would like
research paper in 2011.
We do have research papers on that.
love to see it. Peer-reviewed,
From Rutgers University,
yeah,
yeah. Mhm.
peer-reviewed research. I would appreciate.
Mhm.
So
We should
packet-
not be writing the law, they'll be adjusting the law.
Sure, I'm just asking to see that peer-reviewed research. I'm happy to, I'll give you my card. Yeah, I appreciate that.
We should give it to them too.
Did you say because of the increased output per unit that you're gonna eliminate some of the turbines?
That's the intent now. That's what we're looking at. But as I mentioned before, we're in the research stages to determine exactly what would work within the town, right? Including height, generator size, and location as well. So I think all that would be disclosed, transparently, and when we file the amendments to the Department of Public Service. So not only
That's a good word,
disclose,
isn't it?
right, transparently, but also the town of Cohocton is an intervener in the process. So the town itself has a seat at the table during what would essentially be an amendment process within the Department of Public Service.
Can I make one more point, please? When they initially set up the setbacks and the spacing in between the turbines, it was figured for the wind wash, so they wouldn't interfere with each other or as much as possible. And so by increasing the size of the turbines and keeping a 50 wind turbine project, you're going to have wind wash affecting each of the turbines also. And so, the space in between the turbines is insufficient for a larger blade.
Okay. Yes. Sorry. Okay. So it's called a wake effect? Wake effect, right? Wake, W-A-K-E?
Wake, right,
Yeah,
the wake effect. Mm-hmm.
You're exactly right, that's an issue, right? Wake effect is an issue, as the turbine in front will affect at times the turbine behind it, so you need proper spacing between them.
And it was set up for 420 feet.
Well, so that's been studied. That's something we study very, very, very carefully. As you can imagine, it impacts our output, right?
Of course it will.
Impacts our generation. What you find in this area of Steuben County, the predominant winds come from the same direction, right? Roughly east, northeast. You essentially get wind off Lake Erie. So you'll see that we
That's
cite.
west, that's west.
Sorry, west. Sorry, it'd be west. I guess, yeah. Yeah,
That way.
from the
The
west,
other-
but
the other-
slightly
the other
north.
east.
Right, it's not exactly northwest. It's kind of west-northwest, right? And but it's been cited in order to accommodate that. I mean, our citing within the Article 10 that was approved September 12th accounted for spacing of turbines. And we may have some minute adjustments, right? We may have 100 feet. Yeah, it'd be at 100 feet. We try to keep everything below 500 feet is what we try to do, right? But the thing is, on two things I mentioned, is that the wake effect, that's us, right? So that affects our generation. It can't affect the turbine. There are systems you can put in place called sector management that actually at certain times would slow down the turbine in front or turn off or slow down the turbine in back. So you wouldn't have that kind of long-term potential maintenance issue, right? You can study that, you can adjust for that. The other piece too, as I mentioned before, regardless of generation, right, the nameplate stays the same. So even if we have to curtail in certain areas, that the pilot payment and HCA I mentioned before would remain equal.
If you want larger towers, how come you're not looking for more remote areas than Cohocton?
So we've had the project cited here. We've been developing here since 2008.
Why?
Why here?
Yeah,
So it's a good win, actually good win in the town of Cohocton, also the state. Number one, I think number two, there's an existing project. The town of Cohocton's no stranger to wind turbines in the community. Third thing I say is that the state of New York's very supportive of renewable energy, wind, solar, all types. And the governor set a goal, so he's looking for 50% of energy from the state, within the state of New York that's consumed, 50% to be from renewables. So there's three. I think those are key reasons why we would work to develop a project within.
How many megawatts do you want per unit are you putting in Cohocton?
So we're trying to decide that now. They could be anywhere from 2.5 to 5.5.
We got 2.5s right now. Is there a feasible larger unit already on the market?
Oh, yes, there is. Yeah,
What
there
is it?
absolutely is.
Who makes it?
GE, General Electric, makes one called 158. It's a 5.5 megawatt turbine with it's the 158's the diameter
Yeah.
of the rotor.
And what size blade would be on a 158?
So it's 158 meters. I'd have to do the quick calculation.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so divide that, whatever you come up with, roughly divided by 2, and that would be the answer. You know that? Yeah, 74 meters.
But the blades are actually two pieces
Yeah.
when they're transported, so they're easier to transport for that large turbine.
Because they couldn't get them across the road in one,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, if we're this close to January 2020, do you guys have a layout of where these turbines go? You said you're still studying.
Yeah.
So you probably don't have a layout at this point.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. We've got the layout that was approved within the Article 10. Yeah, we sure do. And so it's our goal to stay, as I mentioned, to stay within 500 feet of stay on the same properties, right? Stay on the same properties, and also to stay within 500 feet of where the project received its certificate is what we try to do. But then we also want to, we want to account for things like wake effect as well, right?
What about close property owners? Neighbors?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That's absolutely right. So if we find that if we moved within a setback distance, or we moved within, outside of a certain restriction, then we would work with that property owner to see if it's acceptable to them.
And are these things that still need to be done by January?
Yeah,
2020? Holy
yeah.
crap.
Tell me about it. Yeah, thanks. So,
I'm just sitting here, I mean, I just, you'll never get it done. I'll lay $100 bill down that says you'll never get that
yeah.
done.
Well,
Okay.
it's probably a year ago I thought this was a 2020
You gotta bribe the
project,
right
so,
people.
yeah, I'm not gonna take the bet, but that's our goal. If we go with a 2021 COD, an online date,
Right.
then you're right, it's a tremendous amount of stuff we have to do, not only with the siting, but we've got a full set of amendments that we have to prepare, which would include restudies, shadow flicker, that we agree, that's a big thing, and a lot of people, not only the persons that were involved in the process, but anyone within the public can make comments on that and be involved in the process. Shadow flicker, visual impacts, noise, setbacks, all these things will be restudied and would be placed within the application. So it's a huge amount of work that we need to get started on. One of the biggest things we need is certainty in regards to the turbine height. And, the backing of the town of Cohocton through this process, the earlier we can receive that certainty from the town, the earlier we can complete those studies to get the amendment and move forward with the project.
What about hiring local? Are you gonna hire the local people?
Yeah, great question. So that's always the preference, right? We find qualified people, there'll be technicians, right? There's maintenance crews, there's also operations and management building that will have staff there as well, right? Those are the long term. The short term, we're hiring. We've got surveyors, right? We've got delineators. It would also include, gravel pits, concrete suppliers, civil works as well, or certainly preferably if it's a local person, so all that equipment doesn't have to be trucked in from afar. Absolutely.
So Chip, we know the existing law set the precedent for many other communities adopting a similar wind law with all of the characteristics of the law. is there, it was my leading question, and I'm not sure you answered it. Are there other communities in New York or in the US that have existing laws that allow 650-foot structure?
That I don't know.
Texas has the
Yeah.
653 feet.
Our neighbor Wayland has no limitation on their height.
What is the
Yeah,
noise level?
Dansville, is going to 650 feet. Yeah, 650 feet. Their original law that they passed quite some time ago, allowed for 600-foot turbines. You know, and I think that was kind of I call it future-proofing, right? But it was kind of the thought that they understood. They predicted that the desire would be new technology that was,
And again, if you think even forward as technology evolves, what's next, right? So
no, great
should we take a step back and really look at how can we make it adaptable, but not just the 2021 generation of wind turbines, and make it adaptable to the future
Sure.
of what it could be?
That's, I mean, I think with my personal view, you know, if up to 650 is perfect, it's fine for the town of Cohocton. You know, if you're recommending to look at 700 feet, 750 feet, that's more reserved today for offshore turbines. Yeah, I think it's, 15 years ago, it was 384 feet, right?
Right, you have pretty much a standard.
384 feet. Yeah, so what's happening now, those turbines are being, you know, repowered, new blade sets, bigger blades, bigger generators, some of them, they wanna put larger towers in. Exactly.
Chip, one last question. Where is the closest 650-foot operational turbine?
Oh, that's
If
real.
we all jumped on a bus.
Jeez, I would have to find out. I'd have to find out, get back to you. Yeah, I didn't do the research on that.
Just curious. I
Yeah.
mean, are there some in New York State with
Yeah.
these 158?
I don't know, I mean, there's a number of projects that have just, in the state, you're finding two types of generations being introduced, I think, heavily in the state. Number one, first and foremost, there's a lot of solar, but secondly are new turbine technology and Article 10s that are just now being placed online on the Department of Public Services website. So, you know, my research, what I would do is take a look at those applications
Yeah.
and look for the first couple pages, would say,
It's a nice site website.
no, it's, this is, New York Department of Public Service.
Oh,
Yeah, NYDPS.
yeah.
So if you guys, if you're interested, if you search NYDPS Article 10,
Mhm.
then you'll be able to find those applications from there.
That's good.
And if not, I'm happy to give you my card.
Oh, that's
Now, you can start or stop these windmills anytime you want, is that
Correct.
correct? So if he had a problem with the flickering, why can't you stop that from,
Yeah,
on these
yeah,
afternoons?
When Matt was here, he did for me, but I haven't heard anything from the new setup, and I just bear with it because,
It's a different
but
company, just so
it's
you
a
know.
horrible situation.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. The town needs to do something about it. They make the rules and the regulations in the contracts, and something needs to be done about it.
Yeah, can I address that one? Okay, so part of the as part of the Article 10, we have to reach an agreement on a complaint resolution plan with the town, right, before we start construction. Complaint resolution plan will have two avenues. So with shadow flicker, if you feel it exceeds the maximums allowable, so you have two things you do. Number one is you contact the complaint resolution, right? There'll be a 1-800 telephone number, an email address that you can reach out to complain. We have to log that complaint, and we have to provide that log to the Department of Public Service on request, okay, number one. So we're required to go out and address that and take a look and determine exactly what's going on. So we can look at data, we know if it's sunny, we know if it's windy, which direction was the wind, how long did it turn, all these types of things is number one. If you don't get satisfaction from that, or you feel like the developer's not, not taking it serious, right? Your second avenue, you go up a far higher level, and that's the Department of Public Service. So you can contact them as well, and they will take a very active role in making absolutely certain that any concerns are addressed.
We go back to my original question about when this law was discussed by this board, and put together at a public meeting? Could it have been that meeting you had after the
It was
town board meeting?
October 8th, when Chip explained the reason for their request to change the turbine height and increase up to 650 feet.
And then this board did not discuss that?
Yeah,
It's in the
this was at the
minutes.
board meeting. This is the
Yeah,
minutes.
he came and said that, but we were all here. There was no discussion by you, the board, and you didn't write a law. You didn't talk about the parameters of the law. You
We
said.
did prepare a law, an amendment to the law. We didn't prepare a law. We
Right.
prepared
Well,
an
when-
amendment to the
But
law.
when was that prepared? When was there discussion among the board members? Not at an open meeting, there wasn't. There was no discussion.
We directed the town attorney to write an amendment for our wind law to bring it up to 650 feet.
And what about the seeker that has to be done with that?
We just got finished talking about the fact that we have to refer this back to the planning board, and that's why this public hearing is probably going to be recessed until the next board meeting,
So what do you do if
to
your
allow them
planning,
to respond.
what do you do if your planning board tells you no? Then where do
We
you
have to
stand?
act on that.
There's been quite a few meetings behind closed doors with these windmill people.
Not in Cohocton.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Does the proposed law that we're discussing right now, does that, if it were approved, does that also cover the Dutch Hill wind turbines? If you
It's
go to
an
say-
amendment to the law,
Yes,
so it will affect any developer in the future.
so all these pre-existing turbines could go to 650 feet one day.
Correct. If they do their applications through Article 10 and everything and meet all the requirements.
It's
under
been
Article
12
10.
years now since these turbines were put up.
That's
Has
the problem.
anybody done a study on loss of property value?
Not to my knowledge.
Because, I mean, we look right at them. They're not in the woods. We actually look at them. Has anybody discussed loss of property value? Because we have houses, we could lose money on our houses.
Yeah, so I'm not sure, what's been done is independent, I say this again, independent peer-reviewed, large-scale, 50,000 house studies near the wind turbines, under the wind turbines, far from the turbines, where turbines exist, where turbines don't exist. They're tremendous studies. In fact, one came out not too long ago, just a couple weeks ago, and I'm happy to share them. In every instance, it indicates that there is no impact from the wind turbine. There's not. That's the perception, and I do
But
understand
is that
that.
study for a 650-foot wind turbine?
It's for everything.
I
They're all
can't
in the
agree with,
country.
I can't believe
All
that.
over the country.
Let me tell you something on the studies you do, the wind company has made.
We didn't make them.
Well, the studies that were made were only made on a sunny day. It was not raining, it was not snowing, because I talked to the guys that did the studies. They will only come out on a nice sunny day to get all their readings.
Yeah, so they look at historical data over many, many years, historical data in regards to house prices prior to the turbines, when the turbines were announced, after the turbines were placed, years and years after the turbines were placed. There's a tremendous amount of data. This is not new science, right? New activity
But
within
their
the U.S.
studies that
and
are
not
made
new activities within the state
Are
of
only
New York.
made on a nice sunny day. When it's raining, or when it's snowing, or when it's cloudy, those turbines are about 10 times louder than what they are on a sunny day.
Okay, so I'm
So
not.
figure it out.
Talking about
They're
two
taking the
different-
readings
You're
from a
talking
nice
about two
day.
different studies. The question was about how it affected the property values.
Well,
That's what Chip is responding to.
it is affecting about property values because of the noise and the shadow flicker and everything else.
But present data doesn't reflect that.
Yeah. You need to get another company. You need more than one.
When we addressed
You
this
need more than
10
one
years
study.
ago, we brought two realtors from the area, two of the biggest realtors in the area, Marty McMillan and Mike Keenan, and they said that anybody that had a wind turbine within so many feet of their house, it would affect their, and we got probably 10 years of data to back that up now.
I would counter that and say probably that's been the case. That exact pre-turbine local realtor has given those types of responses.
First wind bought